I just found the glitch in the matrix, and when I read it, I was upset at first, and then I just started laughing like crazy. The NFL has zero clue, and I repeat, zero clue what the Denver Broncos are doing, and I have definitive proof of it today. Can't wait to share that with you. If you're new to this channel, my name is Ben. I'm a diehard Denver Broncos fan. If you like the Broncos too, it helps me out a lot if you would like and subscribe. So for the longest time, I have been wondering, how is my prediction for the Broncos this year, after watching how Sean Payton has changed everything about this, how he's developed a winning culture, how players are choosing to come to Sean Payton, how his former players and coaches are choosing to come back to him. How is all the stuff that we're seeing, because we watch the Broncos on a day-to-day basis, not reflected in our win projection and not reflected in any of those top lists that list the best rooms and the worst rooms and all that kind of stuff? And I was wondering, did somebody Cosby my drink? Am I taking crazy pills? What is going on? And what I have found out is that there is an extreme level of laziness in the national media when it comes to covering teams. And I know that as people move away from ESPN and NFL Network is shutting down shows and all that kind of stuff, they're so bare bones that literally ChatGPT is doing their job for them. And they're just using last year's data without looking at anything that's happening this year. And the most blatant example I've ever seen in my life that I just had to read it 5 times. Right here, this is Fansided, which is cited in a ton of tweets by, these major news outlets. Came out and they did their best and worst quarterback room. All right. So great news right off the top of the bat is that they say the 5th worst room is the Raiders. I would say that's probably one of the worst rooms, probably 1 or 2. And good news, we get to play them twice, and they are definitively bad. There's no doubting that. Then the Patriots, good. They're not going to be jockeying for AFC playoff spot like we were. Great news here that the 3rd worst room is the Carolina Panthers. And now we're coming down Minnesota Vikings. Remember when everyone said we were so lame and that really JJ was the guy that Sean Payton actually wanted? Well, they're the 2nd worst room. And then they have the audacity here to write this thing up about how we, the Denver Broncos, are the worst room in football. And I was like, there's zero proof of that. You're talking about the most accurate quarterback in NCAA history. You're talking about a guy who all these coaches are coming out. The Utah coach who had to play him all those years when Utah played against Oregon said matching up against him was a nightmare. And the Utah coach knows the pro system and is like, he's Drew Brees-esque. We're seeing Bill Belichick rave about him. We're seeing all of his former coaches come out and say Bo Nix is like another quarterback or another coach in our quarterback room, and he's legit. We see Sean Payton rave about him, and he couldn't wait to FaceTime Pat McAfee and hop on that show. Here's the part where I'm showing you this is peeking behind the curtain and seeing where all this hate is coming from. It's not necessarily they don't like the Broncos or they're anti-Walmart or Walmart owners. It truly is just laziness, and they are having ChatGPT do their job for them. This is something I see in my day-to-day work. I work with a bunch of media outlets, and I just see that, I've worked with 15 different beat reporters for just my small area with the beat reporters who cover schools. They cannot staff people, and everyone is using ChatGPT to do their job, which just generates stuff based on last year's information, not what's actually happening. And it gets so bad. So here it is coming through here, and it's talking about why we're the worst room. It's saying, first off, that Bo Nix is a mistake until proven otherwise. It's a mistake through and through. Nix enters with more experience than anyone. He took, so it's all this kind of stuff is regurgitating whatever it Googles up and ChatGPT writes up for it. But right here is the thing, you guys. When Nix left, he was college basketball's most reliable quarterback. That's very interesting. I did not realize that there were quarterbacks on a basketball team and that Bo Nix played basketball. But that right there is the epitome of all of this negative coverage that we're getting about the Denver Broncos. So do not look at it. Jaleel McLaughlin came out and said, hey, we're taking note of that, and we're going to put the league on blast week 1. Have any of these people even come to a single game? No. That you have one reporter, one national reporter covering all these teams, and they literally are just outsourcing everything to ChatGPT based on Russell Wilson, who couldn't run the system that Sean Payton was. And so do not let it discourage you. It is all like a made up game here. And this is the most definitive proof of that, like in a syndicated article that, when I saw this thing, this was retweeted a couple hundred times and people are like, oh, look, the Broncos are horrible. Like you're saying Bo Nix was a basketball's most reliable quarterback. And it just can't get any more on the nose of it than just that. And that's the kind of thing that makes me be like, wow, are we living in a simulation? Because this is getting absolutely cray-cray. So the real question isn't like, was Bo Nix a good quarterback for Oregon's basketball team? The real question is like, who is going to be Denver Broncos starting quarterback? Now this, Kay Adams is definitely not a reporter who uses ChatGPT. She might be one of Sean Payton's like favorite people to hop on and talk to. And so when she comes out today and talks about this on her Up and Adams show, I gave it a little bit of pause and I wanted to hear what all y'all's thoughts were on this. So Kay Adams, knowing Sean Payton better than most reporters do, came out and thinks that there's a legitimate chance that Zach Wilson is our starting quarterback. Going into this, I said, like, if I was a betting man, which I'm not, I would say Bo Nix is our starter, and then Jarrett Stidham, and then Zach Wilson. But she is very plugged into Sean Payton, and she thinks it's actually Zach Wilson's job going into this. And what she's using as evidence for that is her knowledge of Bo Nix. And then she picked a couple parts of a Sean Payton press conference where she said that Sean Payton isn't going to make this decision based on anything else than who gives us the best chance to win each week, which I completely respect. And then she said this, that she thinks Sean Payton has a healthy ego, which I completely agree. We want a coach who has a healthy ego, who wants to be like, hey, I got 3 more wins out of Russ than Nathaniel Hackett did. I took a quarterback who was the bottom of the league in every single category, and I made him serviceable, and we almost were in the playoffs with him. There's that ego in him that I love that he has that. And so she's saying because of his ego, what she is wondering is like, is he going to have that same attitude with Zach Wilson, being like, hey, he was the former 2nd overall draft pick. The Jets couldn't get anything out of him, but I'm going to wring every ounce of talent out of him and make it a competition. So very interesting to see. And then we're seeing just back to Bo Nix's introductory press conference where he talked about one of the things that stuck out to him as soon as he was drafted was seeing the sign right at Dove Valley, which said that this is competition street and that he's here for the competition. And so maybe in training camp, we have more of a competition than we even thought, because I thought this was Bo Nix's job. But Kay Adams has some great points there, that we want a coach who has an ego and thinks he can do more with less. And I still think I want this to be Bo's team from the absolute jump. But let me know in the comments, what do you think? Do you think Sean Payton's ego, which I'm not saying that in a negative way, do you think Sean Payton's ego will have him try to show that he can make Zach Wilson a winning quarterback? Or do you think this is Bo's job from the jump? Hope you all enjoyed your 4th of July. I'm back in the Broncos Bat Cave and can't wait to keep covering Broncos training camp, and it is right around the corner. Can't wait. Either way, we got a ton to Bo-LIEVE in.